Hey guys, what's up? It's Emergency and welcome back to my channel. We're talking about reboots. Well, specifically Bel-Air, but like mostly reboots. Just because I feel like recently, in the past couple of years, we've seen a lot of different reboots, remasters, remakes, different story twists on original content in media and in pop culture. And I feel like it's time we kind of call that out because what's going on? So I'm here to break it down, talk about it a little bit, and really just get into why are we seeing so many reboots? Why are they all immature? And is there such thing as a good reboot? So if any of that sounds interesting to you and you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss a single video that I put out. I'm just coming back from a little break. I had my last spring break ever. So yeah, I'm excited to get back into the swing of things. In the meantime, I don't know if you could see back there, we got an 100K plaque. Hold on. Wait. I would be remiss if I didn't show you this. It's here, it's real. Hey besties. This is all because of y'all. This came in over break. It's the 100K silver plaque, and honestly, thank you so much for 100K. I've said this many times before, but it's officially here now, and it will live in the background here for all of us to see and remember what we did here. Yeah. Anyways, let's get into the video. Oh yeah, also social medias here, Emergency. I'm trying to get to 10K on Instagram and 250K on TikTok, so if you love the content here, you'll love it over there, so go check that out. Okay, reboots. Well, actually, more specifically, Bel-Air. So the reason I want to talk about reboots in general is because of the show Bel-Air, which is on Peacock right now. And if you haven't seen Bel-Air, one, recommend that you do because it's very interesting. And two, let me give you a little background. So Bel-Air is not finished airing yet. As of recording this, we're on episode 8 out of 10. And it's basically the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reboot. But if the Fresh Prince took place in 2021 or 2022 and was a lot darker and more dramatic. And people have been having some very mixed reviews about the show. I feel like primarily it's positive, but of course there is also the opinion that like most reboots get, which we'll get into, of like this is a reboot and it's very different from the source material. So people are not the biggest fans. And where I fall on the spectrum, I personally like it. It's been really interesting for me to see how they spin this and modernize the show a bit. I'm a big fan of the actor that plays Will in this series, as well as Coco Jones is in it, so like how can you not love it, you know? But I feel like one of the main differences in this reboot is that things get really dark. For example, they have this hitman Jeffrey who is basically hired by the family to take care of any issues, and basically he is murking people left and right, doing some private investigation. Like, real cool guy, but also if you're not on his side or not in favor of Mr. Banks, I'd be kind of concerned because it's kind of scary. And I feel like one of the biggest things of it all is that Carlton, you remember Carlton from the original Fresh Prince? In this show, he has a serious drug addiction. Like, it's really giving euphoria. And I feel like a lot of conversation online is really digging into the fact that like this is very different from the Fresh Prince of like the 90s, and some people are equating it to what I like to call like the reboot curse, where when a great show is remade, it's automatically worse, or like they try and do too much with it. And the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb kind of echo that statement, but I want to talk about it because I'm not sure I agree. I am not sure I agree with the rhetoric that is out right now. So let's talk about reboots in general. So to frame this conversation, when I say reboot, I'm basically talking about any form of show that had an original version, had like some source material, and this new show is basically revitalizing that by continuing the story, telling the same story, or like revitalizing it in some way. Like think like the new Gossip Girl, the new iCarly reboot, the Wink Saga reboot that came out on Netflix, all of the really weird reboots of like those sitcoms I normally ask for, like was it like Fuller House and stuff like that. Like those are reboots. Like that's what we're talking about here. And just because they're a reboot, it does not mean that they're necessarily bad or good. It just means that they're remade. Now usually, most of the time, they're not good. And we'll get into what that means a little bit later. But now that we know what a reboot is, let's talk about why they happen. Why are they here? Because honestly, I feel like a lot of us are asking that question. Like, why do we continuously reboot these shows? And honestly, the answer comes down to two things. Well, actually, it's one thing, but the one thing kind of branches out into the two things. I'll just say it. Number one, money. And number two, nostalgia. I'll start with nostalgia. Well, actually, they kind of go together because nostalgia equals money. In this case, that's the math we're talking about. It's no secret that nostalgia sells, and it kind of always has. Like whether it's fashion, pop culture, slang, as a society, we're always going back to the past to sort of influence and form the present and future. Like just generally think Y2K fashion. The whole resurgence of like 60s and 70s fashion that's kind of happening right now in like media and in like just the fashion scene in general. Like in media, think literally Euphoria season 2, because that fashion was entirely inspired by like the 60s and 70s. 90s. It's like the whole reason why like the whole 90s kid aesthetic was a thing, because of nostalgia of like the 90s. And it's the reason why that you sort of have a fondness of like your younger years, or like the pop culture and stuff that was going on in the younger years, like the old SpongeBob's, like the old cartoons. It's the whole reason why the Boomerang Network, you remember that? That's the whole reason that was a thing. It was all nostalgia. And now we're seeing nostalgia take place in the form of TV show reboots. And the main reason why we're seeing these shows be remade is because they bring back those good memories of the good old days. From when people were younger watching it, when times were easier and simpler, and when people were probably happier than when they are now. Yeah. Now, while the intentions of these reboots may be good, and while capitalizing on this nostalgia isn't necessarily a bad thing, the problem with this often lies with when screenwriters either change the source material too much or like not enough to where it like ruins why people loved the show in the first place, or painfully reminds the original audience of how different they are from when they originally watched this content, if that makes sense. So for the latter part, an example would be like, personally, I wanted to relive my childhood and watch Chowder. You remember Chowder, show on Cartoon Network with the little purple cat or whatever, because I thought it would heal my inner child. I thought it would revitalize me as a person. But when I watched it, I realized that I'm a lot older than I was when I first watched it, and I am no longer the target audience, because it just didn't hit the same. It just did not hit the same. And it really just kind of made me feel old and out the loop, which was not great. Which is why, contrary to popular belief, you don't want an exact replica in a reboot of the source material, because you're just gonna feel old. And since we're already dancing around the topic, let's talk about what makes a good and bad reboot. Now, this may be disputed because I feel like a lot of people want different things, and it's impossible to please everyone in a reboot. And I feel like that's where the waters get so tricky, and why the whole topic of like a reboot in general is so controversial in pop culture. I'm just gonna speak generally about the characteristics of like reboots that people tend to like and say are like good reboots. So first thing good reboots do is that they change the source material enough to make it fresh for like the viewers that have already seen the original, but also make it entry level enough for like new viewers who have never really seen the show before to get enveloped in the fandom, if that makes sense. So that basically means just like don't have a show that like exclusively focuses on the inside jokes and is really just meant for those original fans. Like have something that's a little bit more widely applicable while also having nods at the original fan base through like certain inside jokes or certain callbacks to the original show, if that makes sense. And that leads to the second thing, remaining true to the source material enough to the point where like the core audience, like the OGs, feel appreciated, being like, oh, I knew that. I knew exactly what they meant in that. Like bringing it back to Bel-Air, in the first episode, they had many different little moments where they had like little callbacks to either like the theme song from The Fresh Prince, or just certain aspects of the show that were like placed in there, but like modernized. Like the one that comes to mind was like Will was in the car when he first got to LA, and he was like, oh, are you from West Philadelphia? And he's like, yeah, born and raised. Like cheesy, I know, but it was nice to see. It was a nice little callback. Number three, and I feel like this is the biggest one, is to have the whole team involved, like the screenwriters, the actors, everyone involved, have a genuine passion for the series so that it doesn't feel like a cash grab, because it's very obvious when things are just made for nostalgia's sake and not really meant to continue the story, which is also like the fourth and final thing of like a good reboot, is that the reboot actually can stand by itself and provides more to and expands the whole story and the world of the original. If not that, just expanding the universe in general. Basically provides something new and original, but also familiar and nice to the story. You see why this is complicated to do, because it's very much contrasting information. But personally, I feel like reboots that did it right, don't fight me on this one because I know how you like to tussle. This is my opinion. But I feel like the reboots that did it right were shows like Bel-Air, Euphoria, because shockingly, Euphoria is actually a remake of like an Israeli version of Euphoria, which I didn't know. Teen Titans Go is also a really good reboot. It's not one of the typical shows that we talk about on this channel, but like that's a remake that we could appreciate. This is like probably the most controversial one I would say. Gossip Girl, I like that. That one was good. That one was real good. I didn't see the original, but it was entry level enough for me to get invested, so hold off, stand back on that one, please. And the final one I'd say kind of hesitantly, again, is iCarly. But actually now that I said it, I don't even know if I agree with that, because it kind of did feel like a cash grabby sort of thing. They did like age it up to make it more mature, and I think it was pretty well received, but at the same time, I don't know. I really can't say. It's really tricky to tell. If y'all saw the iCarly reboot, what did you think about it? And I feel like in terms of like bad reboots, it's kind of just like everything else. Like just off the top of my head, I'm thinking like the Winx Saga reboot that was on Netflix, all of the Ben 10 reboots, and really I said it before, like a lot of the other reboots, no shade, but like a lot of them just aren't good. But with that aside, I kind of want to get into the next question of this whole discussion. Why are all of the reboots recently just so mature? Like, why are we making these so mature? Because it seems like recently whenever a show is announced for a reboot that was originally like super family friendly, just super positive vibes, just a really good feel-good show, it'll get remade and it's like drugs, sex, angst, death, trauma. It's just wow. Like, chill out. Like, I didn't know it was gonna be about all that.
Carlton.
Oh! Oh my god, wasn't the euphoria? Like with Bel-Air, I don't know what I was expecting, but I was not expecting Carlton to have a substance addiction. Like, that was not top of mind. I also wasn't expecting Hillary to have like a borderline like OnlyFans era in her like whole influencer thing. And we're not even gonna talk about how Will's friend got shot and all the things that led to him fleeing Philadelphia and all that. Like, that was a lot. And Bel-Air isn't the only case of this. Like, the first thing, literally the first thing that comes to my mind is Gossip Girl. Gossip Girl. If you want a drama, that's a drama. They got it all. That's a dark show. That's a dark show right there. The original was kind of dark, because they had like murder and stuff. The reboot just takes it to a different level, and that makes me ask, like, why? Why, when we say reboot, does that automatically mean teen drama? And the answer to that is pretty simple. It's because teen dramas right now are doing super, super, super well. They are some of the most successful and popular shows in television, in media right now. Like, I keep mentioning it and had a whole series on it, but just Euphoria. Like, it sells, so might as well, right? And the original audience of these reboots are a lot older now than they were when they first saw the original, so it makes sense why they'd age up the show to like match with the interest, but still, like, wow. It's still jarring to see your fave that you were watching as a kid or a teenager now as an older person doing the most, because you're like, dang, wow, I didn't think we'd go here, but we're here now. But I guess my question with this is, just because it makes sense for the time doesn't mean it's necessarily the right choice. And what I mean by that is making it more widely applicable worth the show losing its original authenticity? The thing that really brought people in initially. Like, is it worth shedding some of that for the sake of being more popular with like a younger audience? And honestly, I don't know. There are pros and cons to both sides. For one, it's a business. We all know it's an entertainment industry because it's an industry. They're there for the money, not necessarily there for the culture all the time. But at the same time, these shows can be seen as art, in that authenticity is a really big thing in like the whole art world. Maybe I'm making a stretch, maybe I'm not. I don't know. I'm not a film critic. My opinion is just as good as y'all's, so let me know down in the comments what you think. Do y'all agree or disagree that reboots should be aged up and made to be like these teen dramas or whatever is popular at the time? Or should they try and stay closer to the original genre or theme? And the final point I want to talk about in terms of just reboots in general is, do we really need more? And side note, are they ever better than the original? I'm really not here to kill people's fun. I'm not here to be like one of those people that's just like, stop all the reboots, cut it out now, we're done. But at the same time, I do think that they'd be putting out a little bit too many too fast. Because why do we have so many? Why are there so many show reboots? Like, nostalgia only lasts for so long, and I feel like there are so many other unique and new stories to tell that haven't been told before. So why spend all of your time focusing on the nostalgia factor, bringing back something that was already done, or already had its moment, its piece, and rehashing it again for us to watch when we could be having a new show? That's all I'm saying. Like, we could have something new. We could have something fresh, something innovative, something never before seen. But here we are on the third, fourth reboot of Full House. It's like the fullest house. Like, the house is... I can't even come up with some at this point. Like, that house is beyond full of child. Like, we're done with it. We're done. Like, honestly, I know it's a little bit easier and doesn't take as much time, creative energy as like a new show, but like, honestly, not every show needs to be remade. Is that controversial to say? I really don't think it is. Not every show needs to be remade. Like, let's come up with some new ideas. There's a lot out there. There's a lot of talent out there. There are a lot of creative minds coming up with innovative ideas. Like, let's leave the reboots to maybe like 1 or 2 a year instead of 1 or 2 a season, because I get the whole appeal of like respecting a show and wanting to give it another breath of life and bring it onto a new generation. But I really feel in my heart of hearts that the greatest respect you can do for a show is to leave it the f alone. And that's that on that. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this video, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, then hit that subscribe button and turn on my post notifications so that you never miss when I post. If you enjoyed this video, let me know by leaving a like, and like I said before, follow me on my socials at Emergency, because I am active over there. Let's definitely continue this conversation down in the comments below. Do you like reboots? What's been your favorite reboot? And what has been the worst reboot you've ever seen? Let me know. I want to hear it. But other than that, y'all, thank you so much for watching. I've been Emergency, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.